He was born on Christmas Eve, destined to become one of the biggest pop icons on the planet. From boy band craze to World Cup glory, from Livin' La Vida Loca to Hollywood stardom, Ricky Martin had it all. But behind the lights and the applause was a secret that could have ended everything, until the day he decided to tell the world. This isn't just a music story. It's a story of courage, reinvention, and living fearlessly. Alright, let's rewind all the way back to San Juan, Puerto Rico, Christmas Eve, 1971. While you were probably busy trying to wrap last-minute gifts, okay, maybe you weren't even born yet, Enrique Martin Morales came into the world. Yep, Ricky Martin is just the stage name. And tell me that doesn't already sound like a movie setup. A baby born on Christmas Eve, destined to become one of the biggest pop icons on the planet. Now, Ricky's childhood? Think colorful, noisy, and dripping with rhythm. His mom, Nereida, worked as an accountant. His dad, Enrique, was a psychologist. They split when Ricky was just 2. But this wasn't a tragic, cue the sad violins kind of separation. This is Puerto Rico. Family is family, and the village always shows up. Ricky grew up moving between homes, with grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins all in the mix. Imagine every Sunday being a family reunion, with more food than you could ever finish. And the soundtrack? Oh, it was non-stop. Salsa blasting in the living room, merengue at parties, boleros for the romantic moments, and yes, even a little rock and roll sneaking in on the radio. Music wasn't just entertainment, it was oxygen, and Ricky, he inhaled every note. By the age of 6, this kid was already stealing the spotlight, literally, appearing in TV commercials. Soda, toothpaste, department stores, you name it. I mean, can you imagine? When I was 6, my biggest gig was being the tree in the school play. Ricky was out here hitting his marks, nailing his lines, and cashing checks. Those early gigs taught him discipline. Stand here, look there, smile now. It was like performer boot camp, before he even knew what that was. At school, he wasn't just sitting in the back doodling on his notebook. He joined the choir, jumped into plays, and basically said yes to any chance to be on a stage. And here's the thing, he wasn't that loud, over-the-top look-at-me kid. He was focused. If rehearsal started at 4, Ricky was there at 3:50. If the director gave him a note, he fixed it immediately. That mix of natural charm and let's get to work attitude, that's what makes people remember you. Oh, and here's a curveball. You probably didn't know Ricky was an altar boy. Yep, the same guy who'd one day be shaking stadiums started out holding candles and ringing bells at church. But think about it. The altar is just another stage. You've got an audience, a script, costumes. The only thing missing is the encore. Growing up in Puerto Rico, he also learned something priceless: how to connect with people. You don't just speak. You use your hands, your eyes, your whole body. That charisma, it's cultural, and Ricky had it in spades. Whether he was in a classroom, a family party, or a TV set, people noticed him. By the time he was a preteen, Ricky had done more on-camera work than most adults in the business. Dozens of commercials, live performances, school productions, you name it. He wasn't just a cute kid who can sing. He was a mini professional. So when the biggest Latin boy band of the era, Menudo, started holding auditions, Ricky wasn't walking in like, oh, I hope they like me. He was walking in like, I'm ready, let's go. And in 1984, at just 12 years old, he got the call that would change everything. But here's the thing, joining Menudo was like stepping onto a treadmill set at full speed. Fame, travel, screaming fans, and more choreography than any 12-year-old should have to remember. And Ricky? He was about to find out exactly what that kind of life feels like. The day he joined Menudo, life went from 0 to 100, fast. One week he's in San Juan, juggling school and commercials. The next he's standing in a rehearsal room with choreographers barking 5, 6, 7, 8, and cameras already waiting for interviews. And this wasn't just any band. This was Menudo, the biggest Latin boy band on earth at the time. Now let me set the stage for you. Menudo in the mid-80s was huge. Like shut down traffic huge. We're talking about a fan base that stretched from Mexico to Argentina, across the Caribbean, and even into parts of Europe and Asia. Their songs were topping charts, their TV appearances drew massive ratings, and their concerts, complete pandemonium. Think stadiums full of screaming fans, some crying, some fainting, all trying to get as close as possible. For a 12-year-old, this was like being dropped into the center of a hurricane made of flashing cameras and fan signs. Glamorous? Sure, sometimes. But here's the fine print. The schedule could chew you up. Early flights at dawn, back-to-back interviews, quick costume changes, hours of rehearsals, and then, oh yeah, a 2-hour high-energy concert to close the day. Then pack up, because tomorrow it's a new city. Ricky quickly learned that in Menudo, being talented was just the entry fee. What kept you in the game was discipline. You had to know every step of the choreography, every lyric in multiple languages, and be ready to perform perfectly, whether you were in peak shape or battling a cold. And there was no such thing as, "I'm too tired today." He also discovered the unspoken skill every global performer needs: adaptability. One night, the crowd was roaring and singing along to every word. The next night, maybe the audience was quieter, more reserved, waiting for you to win them over. Ricky learned to read those rooms instantly and adjust his performance, dialing the energy up, pulling the crowd in with eye contact, or breaking the tension with a quick smile. Of course, all this came with a cost. Life on the road meant missing birthdays, holidays, and the comfort of home-cooked meals. Homesickness hit, especially during long stretches abroad. But the other members became his surrogate family. They shared inside jokes, whispered encouragement before big shows, and yes, argued like brothers over who got the better bed in the hotel room. And then there were the unforgettable highs. Walking into an arena and hearing your name screamed by tens of thousands of people. Feeling the stage vibrate under your feet from the sheer volume of the crowd. Seeing fans in countries you've never visited before holding banners with your name. These moments lit Ricky up from the inside, making all the exhaustion disappear, at least until the adrenaline wore off. But here's the thing, Menudo wasn't forever. The group had a rule. Once you turned 16, you were out. No exceptions. It was brutal, but it kept the band eternally young. For Ricky, that meant his clock started ticking the day he joined. Instead of letting that countdown intimidate him, he used it as fuel. Every performance was a chance to make an impact, to grow, to learn. And learn he did. He picked up the finer points of media training, how to answer tricky questions without revealing too much. He built the stamina to perform multiple nights in a row without losing his voice. He became a pro at handling the spotlight without letting it blind him. These weren't just skills for a teenage heartthrob. These were tools he would carry for the rest of his career. By the time his run with Menudo ended, Ricky had traveled the world, mastered the stage, and built a global fan base that wouldn't forget him. But more importantly, he had something even bigger brewing, a quiet but undeniable feeling that the real story of Ricky Martin was just beginning. Because once you stood in front of tens of thousands of screaming fans, once you felt that kind of connection, there's no going back. The boy who entered Menudo at 12 was leaving as a seasoned performer, ready to step out on his own and change the game entirely. No gap year. No slow fade. Ricky went straight from stadium stages to building his own empire. First stop, Mexico. And not for a getaway. Forget sipping margaritas under a palm tree. He was there to hustle. Theater, telenovelas, anything that would push him as a performer and keep him in front of an audience. In 1991, he released his first Spanish-language solo album, simply called Ricky Martin. It wasn't a mega hit yet, but it sent a clear message. I'm here on my own terms now. Fans noticed, critics noticed, and the industry started watching. 2 years later came Mi Amarás, romantic ballads, smoother production, the kind of album that had couples swaying at weddings and teenagers daydreaming during math class. Then came 1995, This is where things got spicy. His third album, A Medio Vivir, took risks. It mixed ballads with faster, more playful tracks, and one song in particular, Oh You Know It, Maria. Go ahead, admit it, un, dos, tres, un pasito pa'lante Maria. That song was a global earworm. If you heard it once, it lived rent-free in your head for weeks. Suddenly, Ricky wasn't just a Latin America favorite. He was touring Spain, Italy, France, selling out arenas in places he'd never been before. But 1998, that was the year. FIFA World Cup, the biggest sporting event on the planet. Billions watching. Ricky's La Copa de la Vida, the Cup of Life, was the official anthem. And this wasn't some background song. It was an energy bomb. Horns blasting, drums pounding, a chorus that made you want to jump out of your seat. His performance at the World Cup final in France? Iconic. He commanded that stage like he'd been born for it. And maybe he had. Then, 1999 hit, and so did Livin' La Vida Loca. And listen, if you were alive back then, you didn't escape this song. It was everywhere. Radio, MTV, the mall, your neighbor's barbecue. The first completely digitally recorded track to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That opening riff, the swagger in his voice, the chaotic energy, it was like nothing else at the time. And the music video? Black leather pants, spiky hair, and a grin that could melt steel. Livin' La Vida Loca didn't just top charts, it flipped the music industry on its head. It kicked off what the media called the Latin explosion in the US, opening doors for artists like Shakira, Enrique Iglesias, and Jennifer Lopez. Suddenly, Latin pop wasn't a niche thing. It was the hottest trend in mainstream music. And Ricky kept the fire going. In 2000, She Bangs exploded onto the scene. Loud, colorful, and unforgettable. And yes, the music video had him underwater like some kind of Latin pop Aquaman. Then 2001 gave us Nobody Wants to Be Lonely, his duet with Christina Aguilera. Two powerhouse voices, one emotional ballad. It was a chart hit and a fan favorite. Let's rewind for a sec. Back to 1998's Vuelve. That album didn't just sell millions, it brought Ricky a Grammy for Best Latin Pop Album. Think about that. He was already a global superstar, but now he had the industry's stamp of approval too. Through it all, Ricky never lost that personal touch. The discipline from Menudo? Still there. The emotional range from acting? Always on display. And that connection with fans? Stronger than ever. He had this way of making every performance feel intimate, whether you were in the front row or watching from the back of a stadium. While the world was dancing and singing along, Ricky was carrying a truth that only he knew. A truth that would take years to reveal. And when he finally shared it, it would change the conversation. Not just about him, but about what it means to live authentically in the spotlight. But here's the thing. Ricky Martin was never just the singer guy. If life were a talent show, he'd be that contestant who wins every round. And right in the middle of his music dominance, he decided to step into a completely different arena, Hollywood. Now, for most pop stars, acting is, let's be honest, tricky. Sometimes you watch and think, okay, you should probably stick to singing. But Ricky? He didn't just dip his toes in, he dove headfirst. And in the mid-90s, American TV audiences suddenly saw him in General Hospital. Yeah, that's right, one of the most iconic soap operas of all time. He played Miguel Morez, a singer, naturally, with all the wild plot twists that soap fans live for. Love triangles, dramatic stares, and big emotional monologues. If you've never seen General Hospital, imagine a never-ending roller coaster ride of romance and chaos, running 5 days a week. You have to be quick, you have to hit your marks, and you have to deliver lines that might sound over the top while still making people feel them. Ricky handled it like a pro. He was charming, believable, and, let's be honest, very easy on the eyes, which didn't hurt the ratings one bit. But he wasn't stopping there. In 1996, Ricky took on Broadway. Now let me be real with you. Broadway is no joke. It's the Olympics of acting. No cut, let's try again. No fancy studio magic. You got one shot every night in front of a live audience. and Ricky chose one of the most demanding musicals ever written, Les Miserables. He played Marius, the romantic revolutionary, singing about love and loss in English to packed houses, night after night. And the reviews? Glowing. Critics praised his sincerity and stage presence, while fans who'd only known him from Maria or Livin' La Vida Loca were stunned to see him in 19th century costume, pouring his heart into a love ballad on stage. But here's where it gets even more important. This wasn't just about Ricky checking Broadway off his bucket list. His presence in American TV and theater at that time was groundbreaking. In the late 90s, Latin artists weren't exactly dominating Hollywood casting lists. Ricky's success showed that a Puerto Rican star could not only belong in these spaces, but thrive in them. It sent a message to casting directors, producers, and audiences that talent knows no language barrier. Meanwhile, his music career was still on fire. Think about it. He'd be performing to sold-out arenas one week, then filming soap opera scenes the next, then hitting the Broadway stage the night after. It's exhausting just saying that, but Ricky made it look effortless. And the media? Oh, they ate it up. Late 90s to early 2000s, Ricky Martin wasn't just a pop star, he was a pop culture event. You'd see him on the cover of Rolling Stone, then flipping through channels you'd catch him chatting with Jay Leno. Then a week later, he's on Oprah making the audience swoon. He had that rare crossover appeal. Teens had posters of him on their walls, parents respected his work ethic, and grandparents, well, they just thought he was a nice young man with a great smile. Ricky's charm wasn't just in the music or the acting, it was in how he showed up. Whether it was a high-energy concert or a quiet interview, he made people feel like he was talking directly to them. And for a Latin artist in Hollywood back then, that level of mainstream acceptance and admiration was a big deal. It opened doors for others to follow, whether they were actors, singers, or both. But Ricky's story in the early 2000s wasn't just about visibility. It was about setting a precedent. He proved that you could cross genres, cross industries, cross languages, and still stay true to who you are. Even if, at that time, there was still a part of himself the public didn't know. And soon, that part, the truth he'd carried for years, was going to step into the light. And when it did, it would change not just his life, but the way millions of fans saw him and themselves. Alright, let's be real. If you were following Ricky in the late 90s and early 2000s, you know the rumors were everywhere. It wasn't just music magazines, it was tabloids, TV gossip shows, morning talk segments. Is Ricky Martin hiding a secret? Who's Ricky dating? And you'd see those giant headlines while waiting to pay for your groceries. Here's the thing about fame. Once you're at Ricky's level, your personal life becomes public property. At least, that's how the media treats it. Every handshake, every photo, every smile becomes a clue in some imaginary puzzle they're trying to solve. And back then, the music industry wasn't exactly a safe space for openly gay male pop stars. The unspoken advice was, keep it vague, keep it neutral, keep people guessing. So Ricky did what so many in his position felt they had to do. He built a wall. Not because he was ashamed of who he was, but because he was protecting it. Protecting his career, his privacy, his family, and honestly, his peace of mind. Can you imagine traveling the world, performing in front of tens of thousands, then going back to your hotel room and replaying every single interview answer in your head to make sure you hadn't given away too much? That's not just stressful, it's exhausting. And yeah, the questions kept coming. Interviewers would slide them in casually. Do you have a girlfriend? And Ricky, with that effortless charm, would smile, pivot, and keep the conversation moving. He mastered the art of answering without answering. But inside, he knew this wasn't forever. Fast forward to 2010, Ricky was in a different place in his life. He'd built a career that wasn't going to crumble overnight. He'd become a father to twin boys, Mateo and Valentino, through surrogacy in 2008, a decision that already showed he was living life on his own terms. And he knew it was time. On March 29, 2010, Ricky sat down, not with a reporter, not in front of a TV camera, but alone at his computer. He opened his website, took a deep breath, and wrote. It wasn't a press release or a PR statement. It was a letter to his fans. And in it, he said the words that had been locked away for decades. I am proud to say that I am a fortunate homosexual man. I am very blessed to be who I am. No drama, no mystery, just truth. And the internet, it exploded. Within hours, news outlets across the globe were running the story. Social media lit up with messages, some from shocked fans, but mostly from people sending love, gratitude, and congratulations. I remember seeing tweets that said things like, "Ricky, you saved my life today," or "Because of you, I feel braver." Think about that. One person's truth giving millions of strangers the courage to be themselves. That's power. Of course, not everyone celebrated. There were critics. There always are. Some in the industry whispered about whether this would hurt his marketability. Certain markets reacted more conservatively. But Ricky, he didn't flinch. He kept performing, kept recording, kept showing up exactly as he was. And guess what? His career didn't just survive, it kept thriving. He's spoken about that moment many times since, saying it felt like putting down a backpack full of bricks he'd been carrying his whole life. Can you imagine that? Walking lighter, breathing easier, singing freer, because you no longer have to edit yourself before every word. And his performances after 2010, you could see the difference. There was a new ease, a glow, a joy that wasn't just about the music. It was about finally living without hiding. Fans noticed it too. They didn't just stick around. They leaned in closer, singing louder at concerts, holding up rainbow flags in the crowd. But here's the thing. Coming out wasn't the end of Ricky's story. If anything, it was a turning point. Because now, he wasn't just an entertainer. He was a role model, an activist, a voice for people who couldn't speak freely. And the chapters that followed, they'd be filled with love, family, and a new kind of stage, the fight for human rights. Overnight, he became one of the most visible LGBTQ+ figures in the world. And not just visible, proudly visible. This wasn't, "I'll tell you quietly if you ask." This was, "Here I am, take it or leave it." And the crazy thing? Most people didn't leave. Fans stayed. Crowds kept showing up. And for so many people, especially young Latin kids who had never seen someone like them on the world stage, it was life-changing. You know that saying, if you can see it, you can be it? Ricky became it. For kids in Puerto Rico, Mexico, Colombia, Spain, places where coming out could still mean rejection or worse. Seeing Ricky smile, sing, and thrive was like seeing the future. He made it real. And it wasn't just the kids. Adults who had been hiding their truth for decades were suddenly feeling a spark, like maybe it wasn't too late for them either. But being a symbol wasn't enough for him. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. He spoke out for marriage equality, pushed for anti-discrimination laws, and fought for safe spaces where queer youth could be themselves without fear. He showed up at Pride events not just as a headliner, but as a participant, walking the streets, waving flags, hugging fans. He lent his voice to petitions, campaigns, and grassroots movements that needed a boost. And when Ricky spoke, people listened, not because he was famous, but because they could feel every word came from the heart. Then there was the Ricky Martin Foundation, which he had founded back in 2002. If you think this was just a PR move, think again. The foundation's mission is to protect the rights and well-being of children, with a major focus on ending human trafficking. And Ricky wasn't sitting in an office signing checks. He was out there in the field, visiting shelters, listening to survivors tell their stories, standing in disaster zones after hurricanes tore through Puerto Rico, sitting across from political leaders and telling them directly that change needed to happen. And here's the thing. He never drew a line between LGBTQ+ rights and other human rights issues. To him, it's all the same fight. Dignity and safety for every human being. Whether it was a trafficked child, a refugee family, or a queer teen in a conservative town, Ricky stood for them. He understood that liberation in one area means nothing if others are still in chains. His courage had a ripple effect far beyond his own career. Younger artists, especially from Latin backgrounds, started saying publicly that Ricky's bravery gave them the strength to be authentic too. Singers, actors, even athletes have credited him with breaking down walls they thought were unbreakable. And let's be honest, before Ricky, the entertainment industry could be brutal to openly gay men. After Ricky, well, the myth that you couldn't be out and successful took a serious hit. You can see the change in his shows. Rainbow flags fly next to Puerto Rican ones. Parents bring their kids not just to sing along, but to show them an example of living authentically. And sometimes, you'll see 3 generations in the same row. Grandparents who remember his General Hospital days, parents who danced to Live in La Vida Loca, and kids holding glittery signs that say, "Love is love." Fans cry during ballads, not just because of the music, but because they feel safe enough in that crowd to be themselves. And while activism had become a huge part of who he is, that other fire, the one that's burned since he was a kid on stage in Puerto Rico, has never gone out. He still had more to give, on stage, in the studio, and to the world. But when the lights fade and the crowds go home, Ricky doesn't retreat to some glamorous mansion with velvet ropes and butlers. No, he goes home to a very different kind of stage. One with Lego pieces on the floor, kids running down the hall, and a soundtrack that's equal parts pop hits and cartoon theme songs. Let's talk about those kids for a second, because if you really want to understand the real Ricky Martin, you start there. His journey into fatherhood began in 2008 when his twin boys, Mateo and Valentino, were born via surrogate. Back then, Ricky was juggling international tours. Interviews, photo shoots, you name it, but becoming a dad, that flipped his whole world upside down in the best possible way. He said more than once that those boys gave his life a new sense of purpose. And now, as teenagers, they have become his in-house critics. You think a music reviewer can be tough? Try having a 16-year-old roll their eyes at your dance moves. But the thing is, he doesn't just take it, he laughs. "They keep me on my toes," he says, and maybe that's part of why he still moves like he's 25 on stage. Then came the younger two, Lucia in 2018 and Ren in 2019, with his then-husband, artist Juan Yosef. Lucia is the only girl in the family, and Ricky's smile changes completely when he talks about her. You can almost see that girl-dad pride. Yes, he's the guy who will go to a tea party in a tiara if she asks. Ren, meanwhile, is pure energy. The kind of kid who can turn a quiet Sunday morning into a full-blown pillow fight before breakfast. And Ricky, he's right there in the middle of it, laughing, dodging pillows, pretending to surrender. In 2023, Ricky and Juan announced they were separating after 6 years of marriage. And in a world where celebrity breakups can get messy fast, theirs was refreshingly mature. No drama, no public mudslinging, just a joint statement about respect, gratitude, and putting the kids first. And they've meant it. You still see them spending time together as a family, celebrating birthdays, hanging out by the pool. It's a reminder that family isn't just about romantic relationships, it's about the bonds you choose to keep. These days, Ricky says he's focused on keeping life simple. And by simple, he doesn't mean boring. He means more dinners at home, more movie nights, more of the everyday moments that when you look back, end up mattering the most. He still works, still performs, still records, but his calendar now has space for school recitals, soccer games, and late-night talks with the twins. And here's a fun one. After years of trying, Ricky finally convinced Valentino to do a dance video with him. It wasn't a big production, just them at home, music playing, having fun. Ricky posted it, and the internet loved it. But the best part? The look between father and son at the end. That little grin that says, "Yeah, we nailed it." Moments like that, you can't rehearse. Then there's the time he took Mateo and Valentino to meet a world leader. Most parents would be freaking out about manners, handshakes, and please don't spill anything. Ricky? He turned it into a teachable moment, telling them, this is history. Pay attention. That's what he does. Blends the extraordinary with the everyday, so his kids grow up with both perspective and pride. At home, he's not Ricky Martin, global superstar. He's dad, the guy who makes pancakes, checks homework, and occasionally gets called out for being too much. when he sings at the breakfast table. And you know what? He wouldn't have it any other way. Because for Ricky, family life isn't a break from his career. It's the fuel that keeps it going. The love, the laughter, the chaos, all of it ends up in his music, his performances, his activism. It's one continuous thread. And maybe that's why, after all these years, he still connects with audiences. Because when you see him on stage, you're not just seeing the performer. You're seeing the dad who got up at 6 a.m. to pack lunches. The guy who kissed his kids goodnight before boarding a plane. The man who knows exactly what and who he's working for. And just when you think you've got a full picture of his life off stage, well, let's just say Ricky still has more to show you. While family fuels his heart, the stage is what keeps his soul on fire. And let me tell you, this man doesn't walk onto a stage like someone dusting off old memories. No, he walks in like the party has just started, and he's the one holding the mic. The crowd rises, the lights hit, and for the next 2 hours, you're not just in a venue. You're in his world. The energy feels alive, electric, like every beat of the drum is synced to the pulse of the audience. And here's the wild part. Ricky doesn't just stick to the hits you know by heart. In recent years, he's been diving headfirst into new music that doesn't just aim for the charts. It aims for connection. He's collaborating with a fresh wave of Latin artists, the kind of voices topping global playlists right now. And instead of showing up as the legend to bless their tracks, he slides right in like they've been bandmates forever. That's Ricky, equal parts mentor, collaborator, and eternal student. Still curious, still hungry, still willing to learn from anyone, no matter their age or fame. The songs, they've got layers. You can dance to them at a Friday night rooftop party, lose yourself in the rhythm. But if you take a moment to really listen, you'll catch these little lyrical gems, moments of reflection, resilience, even vulnerability. It's the music of a man who's lived through triumphs and heartbreak, who's faced public scrutiny and private battles, and still knows how to make you smile, move, and feel. Now the live shows. Oh, the live shows. If you've never been, imagine this. 3 generations under the same roof. Grandparents who remember his soap opera days. Parents who survived the Latin explosion of the late 90s. And teenagers who just found him on TikTok, all singing at the top of their lungs. And Ricky, he's right there with them, commanding the stage with the classics, because yes, you have to play Lidin. La Vida Loca, but also sliding in fresh tracks that proved he's not a nostalgia act. Between songs, he's chatting with the crowd, pointing to fans he recognizes from past tours, laughing with someone in the front row who's wearing a 20-year-old tour shirt, even cracking a joke or two in Spanish and English. You leave feeling like you didn't just watch a show, you shared an evening with someone who gets you. But Ricky's not just about the music. His role as Antonio D'Amico in The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story, wasn't just impressive, it was transformative. He brought quiet strength, dignity, and heartbreaking vulnerability to the role, proving, without a doubt, that he's a storyteller in every sense of the word. Critics applauded, but the real win was showing audiences a side of Ricky that had nothing to do with catchy hooks or dance moves, and everything to do with raw human truth. And maybe the most inspiring part of this chapter isn't even the applause, it's how he's using his platform. Benefit concerts that raise millions for HIV AIDS research. Pride stages around the world where he sings, dances, and stands as living proof that you can be unapologetically yourself and still shine. Campaigns against human trafficking through the Ricky Martin Foundation, where he's not just a figurehead. He's in the trenches. He visits shelters, meets survivors face to face, and uses his influence to speak to leaders who can make real change. That's the thing about Ricky. He's not doing this to stay relevant. He's doing it because it matters, and that's exactly why he stays relevant. So if you're watching and thinking, man, he's done it all, you're missing the point. He's still doing it, still showing up, still finding new ways to create, connect, and push himself further than before. He's living proof that your career doesn't have to peak once. You can have multiple peaks, each one higher than the last. If you're a young artist wondering if your moment has passed, look at Ricky. If you're afraid to make a big change because you think it's too late, look at Ricky. And if you just love good music, good energy, and good people, you've got a reason to keep watching. Because Ricky Martin isn't just part of pop culture history, he's still shaping it. And if his journey says anything, it's this: keep showing up, keep creating, keep living like the best is yet to come. Because with the right heart, the right hustle, and the right beat, it probably is. Ricky Martin's story isn't just about fame, it's about resilience, innovation, and never losing sight of what really matters. He's proof that you can grow, take risks, and keep going without losing sight of your roots. The takeaway? You don't need stadium lights or Grammys to live a bold life. Your stage can be your work, your art, your relationships, or that dream you've been putting off for too long. Don't wait for the right moment. Start now. So what's your next big step? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear. And if this journey has inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that keep you burning, and share this with someone who needs a little extra motivation. Because the best part of your story, it hasn't even been written yet.